Okay, so I guess we'll start. We'll wait for the latecomers to join our panel discussion, which is focused on technology transfer and support of collaboration with industry. We have four panelists. I will start with Fabrizio Tubertini from Italian Institute of Technology, who is responsible for technology transfer at the institute. And he will also be our keynote speaker, presenting, giving short presentation on technology transfer in general. Then we have Mr. Robert Redhammer, who is the chairman of the executive board of the Slovak Accreditation Agency for Higher Education and the former rector of the Slovak University of Technology. And then we have Martin Homola from the Faculty of Mathematics, Physics and Informatics, serving as vice dean, and also responsible for academia industry collaboration at the level of the faculty. Then we have Francesco Rea from the Italian Institute of Technology, who is a researcher sharing his perspective on the technology transfer, and how it works from the side of the researchers. We will cover hopefully all of the three main topics, the most important issues in getting started with, or more important steps, how to start technology transfer, how to foster effective collaboration between academia and industry, and how to structure the support needed for technology transfer in research and academic institutions. So, but before we start discussing, I will ask Fabrizio to take the floor and give us the keynote presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for the introduction. Thanks to Dean, even if he's not here right now, and also Tatiana and all the colleagues and Igor and all the friends that help us today to arrive to this point of the path of the rise. And the presentation is short and sweet, I hope, on technology transfer. And I started with a brief introduction of where we come from, because we've been mentioning IIT for quite a few times today. And we're also quite lucky to have Giulio Sandini with us, who is one of the founding director of the Institute, which is only 21 years old. I say only because for an institute it's not that long time. And we're based in Genova, in Italy, and we have 12 branches around Italy in over cities. And we count at the moment about 2,000 people working with us. Obviously, we have a mission, and our mission is to have an impact of some sort, possibly also on society, not only on industry. And we were born with two missions, with the research and technology transfer. And this fact to have a simplified mission in 2 points instead of having also the academic part, which we do actually work on, but not as a main focus, is helping to have scientists delivering research which is more easily transferable towards industry. So before I heard the discussions we had, and one of the keywords for me is focus. So also research, when is born already with a focus, at least in the back of the mind of the scientist, to have something which is possible to be transferred towards industry, would definitely help also to achieve that kind of result. Okay, these are the centers I was mentioning to you, but you can find this on our website, so it's not crucial to go through it right now. We have 2,000 people. It's quite interesting to see also the composition of the people we have and what they come from and what they do. So we have this phenomena in Italy of, we call them scientists of returns, like they're returning from after an experience abroad, which has been also kind of enhanced with grants from the government of different sorts to the private individuals. And this is to bring back to Italy the value of the researcher that has done some experience abroad. So this, I think, is also a good tool if you don't have anything similar here that could be kept in mind for whatever also technology transfer strategy of long term you want to put in place. Okay, this is just a number. Like I don't like numbers just to impress, to show numbers that just impress, but this is to represent the path that the institution in 20 years has gone through. So at the moment we have about 1,300 patents. And this is just meaning that at the beginning we had very good science that produced first science, a good position in science that became patents, and now is becoming patents done mostly jointly with the corporations financing the last mile of research. And this is a good strategy in the long term to build strong relationship with industry and deliver something which is already suitable for whoever is paying for the last mile of the research. So it's not so much the number, but the fact that through a constant work on basic research, trying to become applied research, we also deliver patents, which are the first step towards building a good technology transfer. Because they also represent a way to sell, in a way, your work. Okay, so you have more patents, industry understands the word patents, and they appreciate more than over information they might raise. Not all corporations are really interested in the citation index of the science or whatever. It's something that they catch a bit later on along the path. What do we do? Well, we have obviously a limited budget in IIT, which is offered us by the government. We are a private entity, no-profit private entity with government funding. And we have at the moment about 90 million euros per year. And we raise on the market as competitive projects and commercial projects of about 50, 60 million euros per year. And obviously we can't afford to do everything. So we focus on 4 pillars: computational science, life tech, nanomaterials, and robotics. And here today we've discussed enough of robotics and computational sciences. Okay, what is technology transfer? Well, I often tell people to explain what I do as a job with my team and my colleagues, that we are cultural mediators, like we are in between science and corporations. We try of some sort of translators, try to understand the needs of industry and try to transfer those needs to scientists in order to find a solution or to solve some sort of problems. Because normally institutions like yours or ours have knowledge that can solve problems. Often problems they don't know how they don't know they are able to solve problems. Okay, because the problems are unknown to the scientific world sometimes. The problems of industry, of course, and so to put in touch the two worlds actually helps to find new solutions or apply solutions meant for something else to different fields. Again, here we are looking at an institution that during the path has been growing also in the structure. So our technology transfer now is quite structured and has different sections looking after different needs. So obviously the intellectual property management has been the first division to be born to protect the good work of scientists, which is one of the crucial actions to do, like protect your work. Then we started to foster startups. So we have a path to help our younger colleagues, not also younger, but generally speaking, younger colleagues, to go for a project that can become actually a startup. We have the industrial liaison, which is what I do with my team. So we deal with the corporations for joint products, for joint contracts or for license our patents. And we have obviously an admin support, which is quite a complete task. And also what we called development and innovation, which is more a strategic kind of unit, which is a recent unit, and is more meant to establish a relationship with government level. It's not a lobby, but it's more creating a network in order to bring our benefits not only to single corporations, but also to communities of corporations or entities operating in Italy mostly. Okay, here are a few examples of what over large institutions do around the world. One of the tricks is if somebody has done it before you, you don't really have to invent anything new, but just copy with regards to what you can actually express with your own resources. So if we look at MIT and a few other institutions today, just quickly, we can understand that the way to reach a result in transferring technology, in doing this knowledge transfer, can be achieved in different ways. Now, when we look at MIT, which is obviously a big example for everybody, you have to consider that their club, which is the MIT Industrial Liaison Club, has only companies with a turnover of over 500 million euros per year. So like in Italy, it would be a very small club if you put it that way. So obviously we have to adapt, but it's good to understand what are the inspirations, the results we achieved through different strategies, and see where you can actually adapt and copy ideas and make sure that the market might be able to appreciate that even if you're in a smaller economy. The same with Stanford. So there are differences of also the approach. Some of these universities actually created vertical containers of technology transfer. So they specialize in in particular science in order to be more effective or create a nice niche. The same also with Harvard. And so the different approach towards the industry is actually creating an array of solutions that can be tested. And this is what we actually did also recently. We have also Cambridge, Oxford, and Imperial. Imperial has this program with enterprises. So they have the traditional technology transfer. They have a very, very strong industrial zone program, which is actually the latest object we try to copy in IIT. So we actually work with the colleagues from Imperial, and we learn from them what was more effective and try to test it. But to test it, just to be clear, has been a path that's began over a year ago, and from a model, like a theoretical model, just taking the hints from whoever came before us, we actually put a design thinking session with companies that work with the institution and companies that don't know the institution, for a couple of days of design thinking to actually try to squeeze out what they would expect from a program like this from the Italian Institute of Technology. And what we've discovered is that they don't want just straight science or straight solutions, but they want to learn more about innovation, to create a network of companies with the same needs in the same economy, to create also a cluster of companies able to express the needs of innovation in Italy, maybe also towards the government. And the item in which they were more interested was people. So they were interested to know how to actually reach our postdocs in order to engage them on research within the companies, or even to hire them for their future needs with regards to innovation. So until you don't talk to your customer, let me say, you don't know exactly the needs. You can only imagine them. So we actually try to talk to our potential customers in order to focus on the real needs and frame it in a program. So just to, in a short way, apart from the industrial design program, which is the newest thing we launched, we have 4 more traditional ways to sell research, if we can say, to the market. The most traditional one is obviously licensing. So we have the patents and we license them. Licensing can go towards a startup which is with our founders involved, or towards a company that did not invest on the previous research on that particular patent, or towards a company who actually sponsored the last mile of research to generate that patent. So there are different options. The position of the institution, because it's no profit and semi-public, is not speculative. So we do want to be rewarded, but we don't have a speculative approach in licensing. The second way to engage with corporations is on a service level. Like, as you can imagine, our institution has a huge investment in the machineries, laboratories, and so on. So we actually perform tests and measures or different ways. And the capacity that is not actually employed by our colleagues can be actually sold to the market. And so we actually sell services towards corporations that actually require them. And then that's a kind of service that does not require the knowledge of the scientist behind it. So it's like a raw test, a raw feedback from a test is not elaborated by a scientist, because if we put some know-how in that, then it will become research again, not only a test. And that's sometimes is a very fragile label. Then we have the traditional sponsor research. So the company sponsors the last mile of research. So that's a classic action where the company puts the money and the research institute does the task, okay? This can be evolved in different ways, but I think it's more interesting but this is the general engagement we have with corporations. And we have done altogether of these 4 different things, more than 1,000 contracts so far. So we have quite a good experience. But the most interesting one is about the joint labs. Joint labs are exactly sponsor research. So the companies actually pay for some research, but we have some particularity to this kind of item, where the research that is proposed by the company is actually aligned with our strategic plan. And this is enabling us to invest in kind in this research. So the company puts 100,000 euros and the institution can put 80, 90, whatever, in kind towards the same research. So it's going to speed up the research for some sort and enhance it. And there is a double advantage also for the corporation. This joint lab has the assumption that has to last for at least 3 years, needs quite a round investment from the company. So it will be at least 100,000 euros cash per year, and is aligned with our strategic program, as I mentioned before. And the output of that, so the foreground, the eventual intellectual property would be, by definition, by default, 50%, because one strong requirement is that the company is actually able to contribute to the research with the institution, and not only be a partner, a cash partner of the institution. So if all these requirements are met, we can define a joint lab. And the joint lab is a good way to cooperate, and is also helping the company to know our researchers, especially our young researchers involved. And often when the research is ended, they start something else, but they hire the people in the meanwhile that have been working with them. So it's a good way to actually foster new business together, if we want to put it this way, but also to transfer know-how and technology. Consider that this kind of approach is also helping for startups and offer different ways of connections. This is just an example of companies that maybe won't tell you much, but are the companies we actually close deals for joint labs. So we have about 20 companies in our history that join clubs with us. Obviously, this also generates startups. Not all these startups are generated by joint labs, but is one of the paths we're following. And one way to foster startups is also, and technology transfer, is also to engage with big venture companies and big venture funds in order to be known as one of the possible tanks where they can actually fish for innovation. And the novelty things are the systemic joint labs. So on the territory, more companies going together to go for a joint lab. So not a single company, but more companies joined for a solution. The industrial design program, which I was mentioning before, is one of the latest things we launched. And also infrastructure is very important. So for the part of computational power, we have this Franklin, which is one of the largest HPC operating in Italy, the third for size, and is also helping many of our researchers, and is also enabling IIT to be more competitive on this side. I think that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Fabrizio. Now we can discuss. We heard about technology transfer and the forms of collaboration with industry, and maybe like how to leverage the research results. We had a technology transfer workshop like previously, like more in-depth going, and I really liked one of the sentences that you said, and that is that technology transfer starts with good research. The question, like the first question, maybe I would like to ask, like, where should researchers start, or where to start with technology transfer? Like, how the process should look like? What the process should look like? Yeah.
I don't know already. Well, I'm not a scientist. I don't have a scientific background, but the best research is the so-called blue sky research, where you actually leave space to the researcher to his free curiosity. So that's the most rewardable research you can have to start with. The focus we mentioned before on application is like something you have to bring with yourself. And so not everything has to be applicable tomorrow, but if you keep that in mind, then it will be helped during the path. So I think that's the main thing. And technology transfer starts when the scientist thinks to have a good idea. Then it would be healthy to talk to a technology transfer guy to understand if he's ready to protect something, or if there is a strategy to approach the market, or if there is a strategy to talk to corporations who can actually make something out of it with the right way. So with an NDA and all the legal means to protect yourself, because let's be honest, like not all corporations are exactly clear on their approach. So they also scout for innovation and they're not always prepared to pay for it the right price. So you have to be aware that the word out there is very interesting what you do, and not always for a good reason. So just to be aware of the value, as we were mentioning before, of the work you're doing as a scientist. I think that's in the common interest, and it should be quite natural. But it's always starting from the researcher, because is the only person, or she's the only person aware of how far the research is going, how ready it is to be disclosed in somehow. And technology transfer is an ally.
Okay, thank you. We have a researcher here, Francesco. So how does technology transfer, like if you have experience, maybe if you could give some example from the side of researcher, when do you have to think, or you should think about technology transfer or potential for commercialization?
Okay, first of all, I agree with Fabrizio. Definitely, what he proposed, what he proposes is actually what is happening for most of us as researchers in IIT. I must say that there are different kinds of researchers as well. So the attitude sometimes is different between different researchers. You might have the researcher that is willing to somehow create a startup, and the technology is there. It wants to get in touch with TT, technology transfer, just to create the startup. But there are also researchers that love to do research, and they want to anyway transfer this into technologies by keeping one foot in research. They're both present. These are different attitudes. I can say that, in my opinion, at least if I have to give an example, I've been more like the researcher that wanted to exploit the technology, but still keep a foot in the research. And usually, what I did in the past is to work on projects. Okay, projects for us, for me, has been always a good chance in order to create the networking with other companies, industries as well, but not just industries. For example, third sector companies that they are interested in the technology that we provide, and so on. And thanks to this networking that I been looking for myself for this, actually the possibility to further work together come up. And it's the result is frequently quite interesting. So, for example, I can tell that I've been working on joint labs. It was a 3-year, as far as I remember, joint lab with also an international company. But I've always worked also with the small, medium companies. Still with the idea to try to get something that we do as researchers, increase the technology readiness level in order to then make it a product which has a value for these partners. And that was the goal of many projects that I've been working on. I must say that sometimes these companies have their own goals. They might be interested in their technology that we are providing as researchers. But then sometimes once we get the result, they look into something else. And the reason, I guess, after years in this field, is that they frequently and quickly change their goals, because these are companies. They have goals, and they try to hit the market in the optimal way possible. And sometimes, in my opinion, they are missing this point, that as a researchers, we have a little bit of creativity, no? So even if we provide this technology and their goal changes, okay, a little bit, it's also possible that we can provide a different solution that is still valuable for them. But sometimes it happens that they just switch to other goals, and in that case, the collaboration stops. I've seen this happening a few times. And just to conclude, this approach is my approach. I've been working in this way for years, but now, as Fabrizio mentioned, there are some other opportunities that, in my opinion, are relevant for researchers in order to get in touch with companies. Whereas before, it was myself trying to find the right companies and trying to create the projects. Here, there is a valuable and very precious support from technology transfer in order to create the network, to create points of discussions with these companies.
When you're saying there are interesting opportunities, you mean opportunities or the support you receive from the technology transfer office, or you mean something else in terms, because you mentioned like there are some interesting opportunities for launching collaboration with the companies.
No. For example, whereas before, years ago, it was me trying to find the companies. No, now with this program that Fabrizio mentioned, maybe they might be interested in getting in touch with researchers. They might come and see what I'm doing, what we are doing as the researchers, and if they are interested, they start the collaboration. It might be joint lab. It might be also the possibility to write new proposals to get some other grants. But the approach is different now. There is also this possibility. Instead of me trying to look for them, they might try to look for the competencies that we have as researchers, as creative researchers.
Martin, what is the technology transfer experience at the Faculty of Mathematics, Physics and Informatics of Comenius University in the Slovak context?
Okay, Daniela. Thank you for the question. Oh, okay, we have to go in here.
Good question, right?
Very good question. It's very, very, very low. And that's why we are here to learn. So our experience especially is that we have good research going on here. We have good researchers. We have people who are more involved, say, on the basic research side. We have people who are more on the applied research side, but some kind of a common understanding of the tech transfer cycle is something I am only learning in the last times, well, since I joined the project here. And there's many people here who simply don't know and are not aware of this kind of that this is part of our work, basically, that we should be delivering this. There are people who are aware, but since there is very little institutional support, and we don't talk about it a lot between ourselves, then these people sometimes operate independently, and even their colleagues don't know that they're actually good in this, or they know, but they think like it's something these people are doing and we're not really doing. So what we're trying to start here somehow these days is that we are looking into ways how to address this issue, and we are looking into ways how to build some institutionalized support, but also to change this point of view of people, that they should actually start thinking also about their products being used for something, and that somehow the industry needs to be involved in this. It's not like it's not gonna just happen. Okay. Of course, we also do basic research. We have also theoretical math here, and the theoretical mathematicians, they are very happy to tell you that they expect their work to be used some 300 years later. But not all of us are so happy to work in this kind of a field, and we have to look into more particular things. So.
Thank you. Actually, we heard what the situation is at one of the leading Slovak faculties, like at the leading Slovak universities. And I would like to use the opportunity of having Mr. Redhammer, chairman of the executive board of the Slovak Accreditation Agency for Higher Education, to get maybe feedback or the broader perspective on, in the Slovak context, to what extent is technology transfer and collaboration with industry recognized as a factor for in evaluating excellence within Slovak higher education institutions?
Hello, everybody. First of all, thank you for inviting me to this panel. For me, it's some like a very pleasant reminiscence of my work 20 years ago. I was a vice director at Slovak Genova Technology, and that was part of my scope. And I was very great fan of tech transfer. And there were several issues that form my views, including visit in US, or maybe 3 weeks traveling across US and listening different institutions, meaning university colleges, how they are dealing with various aspects. We visited also the National Science Foundation and their programs and the creation of programs and evaluation and so on. And also we have been trying here. I got some contact to commercial unit of University of Oxford. So we asked for audit of Slovak University of Technology for tech transfer. And really came some guy, some smart gentleman, and we talked 2 days, and then they sent some kind of review or assessment. And it was very interesting because he from time to time he compared it to the Oxford, and that was kind of issue. And of course, a number of patents, licensing, contract with industries, for example, the value of funding. Always when you divided it by the overall budget of the University of Oxford and STU, it was in the same line. So it's always some kind of issue of the support, of the funding, of the arrangements in the country. You can't separate it. So it's not so bad if you think through. But probably this is not what you want to hear. But then we started to do several other things. For example, we feel opportunity to start some project, a wider project, not university, wider project with private interest from the cross-border cooperation with Austria, with Austria. So we went through several schemes in Austria, technology innovation centers, for example. There are 64 technology innovation centers in small territories. Always when there was a technology transfer built from European structural funds in one period, and the second period they funded personal staff. So they suddenly accelerated the innovations in the region, in relatively small cities. Immediately, if there was no university college, or at least Fachhochschule, or at least some specialized school, so they have been forced to create some to have the impact. So according to my view, it was also true in Slovakia. Government decided, maybe in millennium years, to build 10 business incubators across the country. They created them, and 2 in Bratislava and Trnava region should have been done from the cross-border funding FARED at that time, more than 20 years ago. So it was a little bit postponed. So we used the possibility to use it, and we won the project, and we created University Technology, Innovation Technology Incubator. And they start work. So we push people there to deal with all those young people having some ideas to start up their businesses. Usually they provided some more developed diploma thesis, some kind of acceleration beyond the school duties. And suddenly, now, after 20 years of existence, we can say that there is over 100 startups that were born or grow up, and they are successful. a very high level of success rate. And there were several private initiatives for support the startups in the region, in Bratislava and surrounding. And usually they criticize us that we do not provide funding for those startups. But they were successful, probably because they don't get helicopter money or easy money. So they have to fight for. But you are asking what is critical to start this kind of things. So the first challenge is the mindset, because researchers are usually setting their mind on creativity and some kind of basic research, and probably the Nobel Prize is more the goal than the commercialization of some products. But to understand that 40 years that was prosecuted to have private business in this country and other countries. So it's very difficult to think that people will think in revenue terms and selling some products and earning some money. And that's critical for tech transfer, because if you don't know, if you are not thinking what could be the product and what could be the benefit for the customer, so you are practically lost. So in fact, the mindset is very critical, and you have to have, if you want to support it, so you have to have 3 pillars. The first, of course, the university or the college or any kind of teaching institution that makes the competent talents available. That's very important. So, and I think also those 10 business incubators in Slovakia, I am not sure whether they are running anymore, because they have been scattered around the country, but the only one is sitting in Slovak University of Technology, maybe some others, maybe in Žilina there is a college, there were some attempts, and they are probably running somehow further. In Košice, it's similar, the University of Technology. There are also the University of Pavel Josef Šafarik, and also University of Comenius. It's very crucial to say that this campus is very likely to be the hub of startups. And probably there are some startups you don't know about them, or you know, but they are not very strictly touched with institution as an institution. But there are some activities of individual staff members or students or former students that are connected. In fact, this is some kind of Cambridge phenomenon. The Cambridge itself, the universities, is taking the interest from many startups, many large companies, and they are moving to the Cambridge, and they are creating environment without any move of the university forward. You know, so and this is some kind of phenomenon that is running. But in Oxford, they want to help to those things. So they are trying to deal with patents, licensing the patents, startups, and all those nice path to the commercialization and to running the businesses. So, but you need a university, you need a public institution, talents, public institution, which try to balance all those interests, and some private environment, which consists also from the investor sides or feature and main customers. That's most important, the customers. If you are getting first contract, so you have the first good point, and you might be safe. Not you should be safe, but you might be safe because you have the contract, and you could have first revenue and first income.
Okay, thank you. So we may expect at some point, maybe like from a visionary future, like you say, like the Cambridge phenomenon, it will be Mlýnská Dolina phenomenon, that you will have like people will be moving to Mlýnská Dolina just to be in touch with this very inspiring environment.
Just a second. That was a question in one of the World Economic Forum, which has been held in Cambridge, whether the Cambridge phenomenon is transferable.
And?
Probably yes. Probably this faculty is the case, one of the case. But I think the more important is what we should make the steps to help to grow tech transfer, to make it more systematic. And I can be more detailed in later on, but I think the base, there is a very good base here in small support, you can reach much higher targets and results.
Thank you. We actually, well, I picked up some of the measures or the activities that can help support like the technology transfer, and that was like the field trips, or like the enabling, you know, like the contact for the researchers with other contacts. You mentioned also there is some like special training to get at least encourage entrepreneurship among researchers, maybe some staff exchanges, or maybe like supporting, like as you said, incubator or any other support services. You also mentioned joint labs. Maybe is there anything else that you would like to add, or that you would like to suggest that could be useful for this purpose?
In one word is contamination. So you have to contaminate researchers with the industrial world if you want to get some sort of inspiration, because the knowledge of the researcher exposed to the problems of industry may arise solutions of some sort. And then these solutions can become patents, can become cooperation, can become startups. But the curiosity of the scientist applied to the real problems, if you want, of industry is an exclusive mix in a positive way. And so, as Francisco was mentioning, apart from catching on the right companies, and for right companies, I don't mean big or small, I mean companies that have a true inclination for innovation. So we're devoted to innovation because we understand that innovation is the way to survive. And let me say something which we keep on repeating to most companies when we meet them. 20 years ago, you could live without innovation. Okay, you could kind of float in the market. These days, if you don't innovate, regardless of the business in which you are, in 5 years, you're going to have problems. I totally agree with Martin. Like, there is an issue here where companies are forced to innovation. So as some sort of government bodies, as we all are, we also have a mission to make them aware that there are technologies that can solve problems, but is not an option anymore. It's just some sort of important. And when you mix the researcher with industry, and you also for a visit, for an exchange, is always very fruitful, and we really have that as a great result. The difficult part is scout for us of technology transfer the right scientists to be exposed to that. Otherwise, it becomes a tour. So the company comes, sees beautiful labs, beautiful people, we have a nice chat, we have a nice lunch, end of the story. Or we go there, we see the factory, oh, how nice, how beautiful, interesting, but nothing happens. So we need to be more effective in that. So we have to be more selective on both hands in order to put together higher potential on possible solutions, and not just high potential for a good match.
And in this regard, like, who should initiate the contact? Is it the you as a support structure, or a researcher, or what is the best, or how does it happen?
Okay, the way it happens is both ways. And again, it's a matter of resources. Like, so in the early days of technology transfer in IIT, which is just as you are going to be in 10 years, but during 5 years, is just a different cycle at the moment. But basically, there were a few people operating in technology transfer. And so we were reacting to the companies coming to us looking for solutions. So that's all we could afford back then. Now we are more structured, we are more people, so we can afford to do the push and go. And because the push for technology, because often we don't have a product on the shelf ready to go, but just ideas or knowledge, is dissemination. It's meeting many companies with the same sort of problems or industry, and then talk to people. So it's a long path. And also the sales process in in our experience is like 18 months long. Like when we meet the company for the first time and when we sign the contract, there's a long gap in between, even if the match is, would matching. So the process is both ways. Let's say that when you're more structured, you can afford to do also some push. At the beginning, pull would be all you can afford.
Okay. You already mentioned like some challenges. What could be the challenges in the technology transfer process that you already like experience, or what could go wrong in terms of collaboration?
Well, I totally agree with the Dean about the fact of signing a first contract. I think to sign a first contract is an important turning point for everybody. Like when you show that you can do it. The other part of the deal is to be very clear on the goals we share, because we don't deliver products, we don't deliver solutions, we deliver the best effort towards a solution. And this has to be clear to the company we engage with from the very beginning, because if we set the wrong expectations, then it would be very hard to keep it up. So set very, maybe I tend to say undercommit, overperform. Okay, so that's more or less the mantra. So promise what you are happy with, but don't overdo it, and then maybe deliver something more, and everybody's going to be happy. And don't undersell your work. Your work is very precious as scientists. Your contribution is very important. So just because you're happy that somebody's interested in your work, don't just give it away.
I really liked like what you said in the workshop, that put a price tag to your knowledge. If you don't think about the results of the analysis, it's cheaper. When you as a researcher think, put a price tag on that. How to do that?
Talk to your technology transfer guys. like often there is a pleasure in the scientist to help whoever is asking for advice, and that help may be knowledge that is worth for a lot of money also. So don't give that away for free. Be aware that a test on a new material done with your super new machinery in the lab is one thing. To interpret that data and give feedback has a completely different value, and has to be valued correctly, because also in those regards, to set the relationship on the right level is actually setting the pillars for a long-term relationship. Which normally, one thing, generally speaking, research is always cheap for companies when it's bought directly from the research institute. So you won't be dear. Nobody will. They tell you that you're dear if you can give a discount. I always get angry when I ask it for discounts, but it's not dear at all. It's the cheapest research they can afford, generally speaking. So don't give it away.
Okay, thank you. Anybody wants to comment on this? Putting a price tag to research? I like that.
Price of the research. Fabrizio told it several times. Talk to your technology transfer expert. So I am saying the first step is to have some professional who is a technology transfer expert. So you have to have this kind of guy, and you can send it to Fabrizio Institute, for example, for the first experience. To get it, you can send it probably to the commercialization unit in Oxford. I don't know where else. In Cambridge, they try to do similar things, but Imperial College also, they deal with that. Some of them, they are open to share the knowledge. Some of them are not open to share the knowledge, but you need to have a person, not Vice Dean, because he is busy with other people.
He's busy.
But he's important.
He is.
But he should have somebody else to deal with that, and probably together with other faculties around to create critical mass also for the expertise for technology transfer. Because the second thing, the price tag for the research, the researchers must not speak out the core, otherwise they will lose the value. And that's the negotiations are also, there are some rules, and you have to learn. And that's the expert for technology transfer, they know it. And they can be trained in Oxford or somewhere else. So, but it's professional skill. It must be done by professionals. So therefore, I'm also saying, there was some interview with me last week, and they are questioning me about the ways, what to do in Slovakia to help the technology transfer. And I told them, just give money to the universities, at least few, for the technology transfer experts, to keep them and to train them and to make them professionals. And it's very cheap. In comparing all those programs that were created, I remember for 20 years, I remember at least 4 large national governmental programs that were for 3 years prepared without money. And when it was really huge, then was change of the government. So nothing happened. But it's so perfect, just they didn't happen into reality. So, but also there was, once there was a very tiny scheme, very well set up, just through the universities at the Ministry of Finance, and suddenly it was silent. So the easiest way is to, you have budget at the university, so you can set up some small funding for having the experts for technology transfer. That's what we've done in STU for the incubator. But we tried then, and we found the external funding, so projects and other contracts. So it's running somehow. From time to time, you have to help with the institutional funding, but it's only from time to time. If they are successful, so they can gain the funding, extra funding for their running, for their offices and so on. So I'm very much in favor for having special unit or specific people, professionals that are building up the expertise, and they are helping researchers to look for the customers. And I sent 2 people to Oxford, and they 2 days for some experience, for some training. Then they returned back and they left. So that's another side of the same coin.
We went to IIT, and the result is this visit of Fabrizio. So there are also some good examples of field trips and staff exchanges. So maybe the question for Martin, what about the support structures and technology transfer at the faculty? What could be inspirational in terms of how to structure it or how to approach this area?
Okay, thank you. I was about to raise my hand actually, because previously I told some things about how nothing is working here, but it's partly true, but partly also we are trying to set up stuff. So one important thing is that it's not true that we don't have any institutional support. We have, I think the university has 2 FTEs or 1.5 FTE for the whole university.
She was participating. One of the colleagues were participating in the workshop. Yes.
Yes. So there's a few interesting people in this room. I know.
No, she's not here.
But so the point is that what I found out when I was kind of looking into this is that very important thing for the researchers is to actually know that this support exists, because many people don't even know that we have very small, but they can still do something for you based on their limited capacity. So actually they are mainly doing some advice on patents, and they can also help to some limited number of people with filing patent applications. So there's at least something. Then the second thing is, yes, there's one thing that you have to do is to let people know about this. Then the second is to educate them a little bit about how the process should work and what they should actually expect. So this entrepreneurial spirit, and that takes a long time, but at least something can be done. So that's what we would likely do in next time. And then we try to do more. We try to build, and we also try to integrate. So there's this incubator for startups at the technical university. Has been very successful, and to the level where the actually national regional government of the region, they noticed that this is a very good incubator that is working, and they are actually pushing now towards on the technical university to kind of open this also for others to rebuild it into a wider platform for the region, the whole region. So that's one thing that we are kind of working with them on this. And also we know that the regional government is also currently planning to set up some kind of a structure that would coordinate the technology transfer between companies, universities, and the education in this space. So we are also collaborating with them. Okay. What we want to do inside the faculty is that we need to learn all these things, how it's done. So we need to have more staff exchanges, more invited tech transfer experts, and we want to do this in the near future. And we should find ways how to fund this establishment of, for example, for a faculty-wide transfer unit. And for that, we could potentially look into some projects. Then.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I think we have now time for like some questions, like 5 or 7 minutes before we conclude. Yes, Cornelius.
Comment or in the last we learned about how to make research and technology together, and industry, but we did not talk anything about teachings of arts. So I always argue that teaching and research, for example, has to be combined because researchers they benefit if they teach, because they then learn to explain their methods better to other people for better dissemination, and similar, of course, the skills they learn as well. But I think also for industries should be a bit more joined. Today we get on a high level like PhDs or postdoc in whatever for startups. I think we should also talk about the lower levels of whatever bachelor and master students. They should also learn relevant things for the industry. For example, lecturers at the university often teach very academic content. So I think that the students, they suffer from that, or they're not so motivated because they want to sort up to the study. And I don't know, is this really relevant? Is this relevant what I'm learning here, or is just academic? And we could get some fresh data sets or application examples from industry that would really value for the teaching. And vice versa, of course, once the students are taught with industry relevant topics rather than academic ones, then they will also be more valuable for their job days qualified. All transfer of what they learned to industry and not just stand at home and apply it what they learned. No. So I don't know whether there's any systematic wise, or there were initiatives or units in the spatial study in order to foster some kind of a more tight interaction between not only research and teaching, but also industry and teaching.
So we are talking more, I don't know if that's the correct term, but knowledge transfer, like to make it more not only technology, but also like how to make adjust the skills and the knowledge that the students receive through like academia and teaching more applicable to companies. Is that what you said?
Yeah, what's relevant companies together to the teaching.
Okay.
Not just as academic level with maybe toy examples, but actual examples from the industry.
Mm-hmm. Okay, anybody would like to comment on that? Francesco, yes?
Maybe because it also relates to what I wanted to add at some point. So I believe that first of all, it's true that we need to look into professionals and get in touch with professionals. But it's also true that we have different kinds of researchers at different levels, okay? So for example, here we were talking about postdocs, but I believe that the senior researcher is not naive. The senior researcher knows that some results should be exploited. It could be teaching, which is still an exploitable result. It could be algorithms. It could be anything. But in my opinion, the senior researcher the faculty members, they know that some contribution should go into exploitation, okay, because it's relevant for them. And in fact, what I believe is that by looking at organigram, so the structure of the faculty, the senior researcher might know, or better, should be able to know how the young researcher should exploit these results. Maybe some of them have a different attitude towards exploitation than others. Maybe some other postdoc prefer to have to look into startups. Okay, in my opinion, the senior researcher, the faculty member, has also the skills, the capability to look into people and to people in the students and postdocs and researchers that are working with the senior researcher. And this is a skill that should be really used in this situation in order to understand how to reach the professionals in technology transfer with the right tools. And maybe one tool might be the joint lab, one other tool might be the startup. And it's important to read the people before we actually reach the TT. Also because, as Fabrizio was mentioning, this is also related, is in function to the number of people in the technology transfer. So, for example, it was mentioned that years ago there were very, very few people, and now there are more people, and so they can push. So the number of professionals in the technology transfer is a relevant aspect. And for sure, the technology transfer cannot reach every single researcher. No, it's up to the faculty member, the PI, or the senior researcher to understand the people they are working with. And this relates also to what was mentioned here.
In the previous panel, because we talked about like developing the skills of the people managing the research and human capital. Yeah. Okay. Any other comments? Oh yes, Giulio.
Just a we have been discussing about world drums. I think previous experience about what are the benefits, but the reason to start implementing because I mean, research, the basic research, if you exploit it too early, you waste it. If you exploit it too late, the concepts away. And we all know that not because something is a lot and better is going to be a win. We bet several things. So how do you implement these mechanisms that tells you the researcher who always thinks that the stuff is blessed, that it's way, transferable and is breaking a lot of hand? How will you explaining somehow what kind of mechanism can put that into work? But in besides, now it's the time.
I tried, Julian.
We don't have the crystal ball, but in the presentation I did this morning in the other room, I had this picture of a lady on an electric scooter in the 1920s, which is showing the timeline. So in the 1920s, you already had electric scooters available to rich people, obviously, but it wasn't a business. And then 100 years later, we have electric scooters everywhere. So the timing of innovation is in adoption. So when innovation finds an adoption, becomes a technology that can actually be used. Now, I don't think a technology transfer by himself or by itself is actually the enabler to decide when is the right timing. It's always the market deciding. So what we can do at our best is to use all the available means to understand how ready is the market. And the feedback can be only in two ways. Either you have corporations willing to invest in that kind of research and bring it to the market. And so that's a good test. The other one is to set up a startup because you think there is enough market to start with. But when we talk about deep tech, like most of whatever you are doing, all, there is a trick because nobody would open a shop in an empty commercial center. And sometimes we're in that situation where we have a very cool idea, but nobody else is running a business on it. So we should be, honest enough for ourselves to to think that maybe it's a good idea, but the timing is not good yet. So that requires little investment, not so much by the technology transfer itself, but from consultancy companies, which normally are outside the loop, to give you some market research done properly that are able to interview opinion leaders in the different fields and know exactly the perception about that kind of development, that kind of investment, if the companies are willing to invest in that kind of stuff, because it's a bit beyond what we can actually reach. Because we can talk to opinion leaders, but we don't have enough grasp of all the possible markets we could approach. So that's a very difficult part. And I was mentioning earlier that also in our flagship, that's more or less the idea. Like the flagship we have in IIT, which are a mix already of different knowledge put together to find solutions in a certain key, we are willing to help them, but we go through this process of having some external advice, because it will help to select the projects that will come, because otherwise every friendship will have 4 or 5 projects and we cannot afford it, but not all of them will be viable. And is not TT really able to assess that by itself, because we don't have the means unless we have a strong demand from outside coming. So a company like the example, I give you just a brief example, I don't want to steal time. We have a startup on plastic paper, I would call it, like from a plastic made out of paper, of waste paper. And there was a Joy Lab that went on for 7 years with a large corporation, which is leader in paper for cooking in the oven, like all the pastries. And they had huge waste of quality with a lot of cellulose. So we made a plastic out of it, and they made a startup. They founded a startup with our researchers because they found there was another market which was demanding for that. So that the full cycle, but that's the magic that not always happens. And because we already had somebody investing then in that innovation and trusting that innovation. But if you have to scout to the partner, it's a lot harder, and we don't have the means really. And we will never have the means, to be honest. It's a bit beyond what we can actually do in an effective way. So we need to go for external resources. But the timing is hard to tell. Think of
magic.
Yes, think of messenger RNA. Before COVID, nobody was really interested into it, commercially wise. After that, with the same research, we had a long queue of investors willing to put money on it for no reason, basically. So there is also a fashion kind of trend in investments that now with AI, we see everybody sees the hype. But
Well, this is not that research, and the technology class is the researcher with the lowest class and the market.
yes, the market is always the market is the king, especially for the timing, because the other component that we don't discuss today, but which is obvious, is the cost. Like, if innovation is more expensive, but the current solution is very interesting, but nobody will use it, or only a few will use it. And there is a hierarchy in innovation, and you all know that: space, weapons, and so on. So depends also who has your match. If your match is space, probably they are prepared to pay for graphene or whatever price, because it doesn't really matter. If they're making satellites that should last 25 years with no work on it. So it depends a lot. So that's the hardest bit. It's always a bit of an educated guess, no more than that. I hope
This is also something you have to convince the researchers, because this because it's not always the best which wins.
No, exactly. That's exactly it. It's not always the best. Yes. But there are many examples of this kind if we look at history, and the timing often makes a difference. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we are running a bit late, but Mr. Redhammer wanted to comment, but very briefly, Omar.
So it's with also very bad about the duration. So I believe time and duration. Maybe one country could be better or one million.
Okay, so there's a geographical aspect to that. Okay, Mr.
It's very interesting topic, all those topics. But what I have what I have in my mind by the professional for tech transfer is everything Fabrizio told. There is a lot of things, a lot of know-how inside, and the market as a private or the environment is absolutely important, and not everything win. That's it's complicated, and therefore researcher is not enough to fight with all of the things. Another thing what I would like to comment, academic staff at this faculty is doing also teaching, also research. So that's connecting. The more difficulty is with the externals, the industrial partners. They are not willing to come here usually, and you have different reasons. The main industry in this country is a car production, but they are usually large companies, and they have factories with finalization of the cars from the components, and they don't need research because they have their lines and they are running. What is interesting, usually those factories here are most effective and most quality compliant in the concerns, because there is a lot of people highly educated and trying to make the production running smoothly and in high quality. And it's given by the innovation, small steps innovation in the factories, but you don't see it from outside because it's inside and they are covered. So you are not seeing it. And it's also Samsung, also other industry, not only car production. What is possible to go to the tier 2, tier 3 suppliers, sub-suppliers? They are more open for cooperation. There were 3 main research domains we selected when we made the smart innovation strategy for Slovakia a couple of years ago. And it was material science because of the industry, information technology because you have access to the global market through internet, and there is a lot of good brains here in country. And then biomedical industry, which is very strong. Some research institutions, also Slovak Academy of Sciences, including also the Faculty of Natural Sciences, and also here, also in Slovak University of Technology, partially. So there are some jetons, some chances. So these 3, but the material sciences, you have to open it up. You need to open university up much wider, but you need a partner on the other side, and they are very difficult. But for example, Matador is a car production industry. Tier 2, they try to be tier 1. To Volkswagen and other they have been quite successful in that, and they are designing and thinking through new parts to change the parts in the cars. So they are successful in the large companies. So it's very good, and they have also some cooperation with faculties in the city, also in that. So, but it's not enough. It is not enough. So this should be open generally more, and it's not only fault of the colleges, to say it simply. The last thing what I would like, but the IT is very successful because you have all global market. So if you have a really good application or good product, good service, so you can penetrate it to all market. And we have here also a big company, which is a global company, and they try to help startups to penetrate to the global market, to US, to Japan, and so on. Japan is different market, but they have there also some channels. The last thing is you need to have intellectual property policy in place. It's not only the patent policy. I was trying, when I was vice rector many years ago, I was trying to push the patent policy, but I was not successful. I always try somehow, and I can't get through. When I was rector, I asked for, I have a pro-rector, vice rector, Professor Marian Peciar. He filed several patents, and he tried to think systematically, and after a couple of years, they've done it. So we suddenly have a policy, and once we got the policy, so it starts to be moving somehow, and then suddenly there were also some, not many, but some licenses. So, but generally, in general, intellectual property, you have to have your own policy, because the laws are not very clear in Slovakia. They are clear, but not so clear. So you need to make a clear rule inside and to support stuff. And one last comment: the startups, we didn't took any shares in startups. We said, let's go, and they gone. Oh, and they go and gone. Spin-off, we had maybe 5 or 6 spin-offs, partially with academic staff and partially with part of the university share. It was not working very much in Slovakia. So it's very tough, and it's not very much working. So I think it's better to let it go and to create this environment and create a partnership and networks and everything around it, and have value and rise the value, than to be very strict and rise nothing. Thank you.
I think we are have very interesting discussion, but we have to stop. We can actually continue in the informal, because we still have some coffee. No, there is extra space, and we will have we can eat the leftovers there. We are we have reservation until 5 for sure. So you still can discuss, continue discussing. What are my takeaways from the discussion is that we need to train people and support collaboration and develop the ecosystem that supports this collaboration between the sectors, and that can lead to technology transfer. So I would like to thank all the panelists for coming and participating, and the last person to conclude the event is actually Igor, and I will ask him to give some final remarks or closing remarks. But maybe we could give a clap to all the panelists. Thank you.